If you don't have the right elements in place within the environment, you limit severely the ability of that team to succeed.
Hey there, and welcome to a brand new episode of Delivering Marketing Joy. I am your host, Kirby Hossman, and joining me today is a brand new rock star. He's a buddy of mine as well. He is an expert in team building. He's in leadership and workplace transformation of culture. He's an author. He's a speaker. Larry Szeliga, thanks so much for joining me, man.
Kirby, thanks for having me on board.
Absolutely. So, yeah, it should be fun. So let's dive in. I mean, what project are you working on right now that has you totally fired up, and why?
Well, Kirby, when you're nearing the age of retirement, you start looking forward to it. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and I'm going to have so much fun. It's going to be so much fun that I can sleep in late. No, it doesn't work that way. It's good for a couple of months, at least for me. But then I'm going nuts. I got to do something. And what I've decided to do is to develop a signature speech on team building, not just normal team building. It's team building with a high potential for success. Okay. So it's got me all revved up because right now, 70% of your team building experts focus on internal team dynamics. And that's great. People know how to talk to each other, know what the rules are, know how to make decisions. But you know what? Teams don't exist in a vacuum. They exist within an organization, and the organization has a tremendous impact on their ability to succeed. Does that make sense to you?
It does. It does. And, I think obviously in the interest of transparency, we've been working with you a little bit about this. And I love sort of you mentioned something at one point where you're like, well, there's sort of the gurus who will like fix one thing, and then if anything else is broken, you got to call them back. And kind of your overall thing is you want to teach them how to fix any problem that's there, right?
It's not only fixing every problem, but it's generating ongoing improvement. So right now, the old model was called action research. That's back from the 1950s. And it wasn't until the 1980s that they changed that. The action research was great. Management would go in, pick a team, define a problem, fix the problem, and then go back, find another problem, pick a team, fix the problem. But it was management driven. The new way is to create an image where people, for example, how can I make it easy for my customers to spend their money with me? Okay. Then you put a team together, you train them, and you cut them loose. You get a certain amount of autonomy within organization bounds. Like you can't change a print without taking it to engineering, or you can't change a safety rule without going to safety. But within the guidelines set up by the organization, you allow the people to make changes, to go in and start making improvements without being driven to make the improvements. The organization is responsible to make sure that there is clarity of purpose. What is it we're trying to do? And that's where the generative image comes from. You want to generate conversations that drive improvement, that drive collaboration between the levels, not within one level. It's not just hourly workers, it's not just managers, it's across the board. Then you have to make sure that the environment itself is going to support them. Because if they don't have the resources, if they don't have the information, they can't succeed. And I've worked with organizations where, as a consultant, where we talked about the resources they need. And you come down to the question, well, okay, you want to have teams that work on these problems. Well, how much time do you want to give them? What do you mean? Well, you want them to work on problems. When are they going to do that? Oh, we can't take time away from production. We got to get the numbers out the door. Well, okay, make up your mind.
Yeah.
I was one of the lead consultants at Colgate-Palmolive when it opened here in Cambridge. And Walt Golembeski was the vice president. When I asked him that question, he said, well, we run a 3-shift operation, so there's no real time that they can meet. So, well, how do you expect them to fix problems if they can't sit down and talk about it and do the research and do the trials? And he said, oh, yeah, well, we'll bring them in each an hour early, pay them time and a half, and they can work one day a week on it. Perfect. So, he came up with a solution, but so many of them just say, well, we want you to work on this, but they might not have the skills or the time.
Yeah.
It's the organization's responsibility to make sure they have those things.
Yeah, I could see why you're excited about it because I think you can see how that could create change. So, uh, what's another organization or creator that is doing good work that you're impressed with, and why is that?
Well, a very good friend of mine, Dr. Jervis Bush, has been doing this around the world since 1980. That's when I met him. I went to one of his workshops. I was one of 6 people selected by GM to attend a 9-month training program under Jervis Bush, 3 days a month, every month for 9 months, where he would present us with team building theories and actions. But then we had to go out and try them and come back and report the next month. This is what we did. This is what worked. This is what didn't work. And then we brainstormed how we could fix it, what we could do different, and what we have to do next. And that's the next part of the training. He has done this around the world. He is now ranked number 7 in the world in organizational dynamics. And he's still a close friend. Matter of fact, we get together about once a quarter. It's been going on since 1980 to share ideas on what works and what doesn't work. So there's a lot of organizations that are doing it, but there's very few people who are there are a lot of people doing it that are OD experts, organization development experts, but a lot of your team building experts, your consultants, your organization culture transformation specialists don't understand the new way of thinking in terms of generative change. It's hire me to come in and help you do this. I help you do this. I go away. You want to do something else? Hire me back. My goal is to teach organizations and leaders how to do it without building a dependence upon outside expertise.
Yeah. So, what's a piece of advice you hear all the time that you actually think is wrong?
Wow. We'll go back to the very first comment I made. So many organizational experts focus on the internal dynamics of the team without paying attention to the environment that the team exists in. I think that's a major, major problem. And that is why you're going to love this. 70% of the experts in team building focus on the internal dynamics, but 60% of the team building efforts in organizations fail. So it's time to change and start working. Yeah, it's important to have the internal dynamics. I'm not saying it's not. But you can have the best organizational or internal dynamics in the world. If you don't have the right elements in place within the environment, you limit severely the ability of that team to succeed. And that just drives me up a wall because I've seen so many people that tried to fix problems and got disenchanted with the effort because they couldn't get resources, they couldn't get time, they didn't have the skills. One of my favorite stories this is back when I was working for General Motors. We had a body side molding. You may remember these, the PVC moldings that they stuck on the side of the car. Well,
Yeah.
the problem was that they'd get out in the field and after a couple of months, they'd fall off the car. They were stuck on with adhesive. And we did all kinds of studies. We formed a team around it. And we tried everything we could think of. It became obvious after about 3 months, we didn't have the right skill set. We had engineers, we had designers, we had chemists, but we didn't have an answer. We had exhausted everything we could. GM was smart enough, they went to MIT and brought people in from their think tank. It took them 2 weeks to solve the problem.
Really?
But if we had depended upon the expertise that we had in General Motors, that's a big company. They have a lot of engineers, but we didn't have the right knowledge to fix that problem. But the environment went out and found the knowledge, put them in the team, and the problem was resolved in a couple of weeks. That's why it's important.
Yeah, that makes total sense.
It's not just time, it's the skills, it's the clarity of the task, it's the autonomy to do the job. So that's what bugs me. We focus on the internal team. We spend all this time on it, then we don't give them the support they need to succeed. And here's the other thing. Teams that are successful are happier. They're more engaged. So it contributes to a workplace culture that's healthier. It's not the only thing. I mean, there's much more that has to be done, but it's a damn good step in the right direction.
Yeah, it makes total sense. Larry, this is really good stuff. Like I said, I can totally see why you get fired up about it. Where can people find more information about you? Where do you, like on LinkedIn, or where can they find you?
The webpage is www.larryszeliga.com.
So LarryZeliga.com is the best place to learn a little bit more about you, find all that kind of information.
Absolutely.
And so that's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Larry, thank you so much. This has been fun. We'll have to do it again sometime. Okay.
Kirby, I'm looking forward to it. And thank you very much for inviting me along.
Absolutely. Well, that's going to wrap up this edition of Delivering Marketing Joy. We'll see you next time.